You're listening to the What's Happening podcast with Gary Watts.
Good morning. I'm here with Rick Hiller, the University of Iowa's baseball coach. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, Gary.
How's your morning going so far?
Well, it's going.
It's going, huh?
Yeah.
Nice rainy day. We need to rain, though, huh? Well, we're going to talk about Iowa baseball, of course. Let's talk about Rick Hiller. Tell us about your journey, maybe where you went to high school, what you did, where you're from, and then how you got to the University of Iowa.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Eldon, Iowa, in southeast Iowa.
Yeah. God's country
Yeah.
down there, isn't it?
played football, basketball, baseball, ran track, did pretty much everything. I just loved to play. And played Legion ball in Ottumwa. And our Babe Ruth, our 13 to 15-year-old baseball league was a part of Ottumwa's Babe Ruth. We were in the National League, and Agency, Iowa is a part of Cardinal. Cardinal of Eldon is where I went to school, and it's Eldon Agency in Batavia, sits in the middle. And so a lot of baseball played in Ottumwa. And then when I graduated from high school, I went to Upper Iowa University, played football, basketball, baseball for three of the years I was there, and then I got hurt in football my junior year. Had to have a pin put in my shoulder and cracked my sternum, and I ended up not playing football my senior year just for fear I'd miss baseball season again, and was hoping to have a chance to sign and get a chance to play pro ball. And
What position in football and baseball?
I was a receiver, punt return, kick return, bullet man on the punt team, bullet man on the kick team,
really?
punt block, all the jobs you got blown up really hard,
Did you ever look up when you caught a return to kick and you just looked through the ear hole?
Yes, I have. Several times.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the blindside rule when
Right.
you were the bullet man either.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys coming at you catching
Well,
the ball.
I remember one time I was a freshman, and I was the bullet man on the punt team and the bullet man on the kickoff team, and we were playing at your hometown. We were playing William Penn.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of family there, and I remember, the guy got outside, and I was running as fast as I could, and the guy decleated me, and I got to my feet, and another guy decleated me, and I was just, oh man, I just wanted to go home. but anyway, so I played the three sports in college. Like I said, I loved to play. I knew at a young age that if I wasn't playing, I'd be doing something in athletics. I didn't know quite what, but I
Were
knew
you a pitcher? Were you a pitcher?
I actually was a shortstop and a pitcher. Shortstop and a pitcher, and and when I was a junior, our high school team had a 2-run lead in the state championship game with one out in the last inning, and ended up losing to Key High Lansing. My junior year, yeah. Think about that still to this day. That close to a state championship, and I pitched the first 5 innings, and pretty miraculous. I pitched terrible. I walked a bunch of guys, but kept getting out of it. And I remember Coach Johnson, Gary Johnson was our high school coach. He walked out in the 5th, and he said, "I can't watch this anymore." And I said, "I don't blame you." but we survived. We like I said, it didn't give up a run, and then end up tough loss, and we just couldn't get them out in the 9th or 7th, I guess, then high school. But then after college, I went to a bunch of pro tryouts, tried to get signed, just didn't happen, and I got a teaching job. I sent out 100 applications, and the only one that asked for an interview was a school in southern Missouri, Bakersfield, Missouri. And I was 4 miles from the Arkansas border, between Mountain Home and West Plains, Mountain Home, Arkansas, and West Plains. I could shop in either one of those places. And I remember going down there, and man, it was different. It was a different world for me.
Ozarks, right?
Yeah, way down in the Ozarks.
Yeah.
And I ended up taking the job there. I was basketball coach, baseball coach, and I taught history, PE, health. I think I had 4 preps that year. And it was a wonderful experience, and still have great friends to this day. Joined a local club, and we ended up getting a baseball field built in the short time I was there with the help of some good people in town. And then the decision that I made that summer, this would have been the summer of 1987. I had taught a full year, and I was going back to Upper Iowa to work a basketball camp. And I called, and my coach's name was Bill Prohaska. And Bill was a legend at Upper Iowa, was there, probably 40 years as a basketball and baseball coach, like they did back in those days. The small colleges wore a lot of hats, but it was starting to change. And Mike McCready, the great wrestler, Hall of Fame wrestler, world champion, Pan American Game champion, was our athletic director. And I called Mike's office accidentally instead of Coach Prohaska's. And Mike and I were just having a nice conversation. And he said, hey, Rick, he said, when you come up for camp, let's talk. He goes, we're thinking about letting Bill out of baseball and let him focus on basketball, and we're going to hire a baseball coach. And Bill said if it was the right person, he'd let it go. And he goes, would you be interested? I said, oh, for sure I would. And he said, well, let me tell you the other side. He goes, the main part of that job is going to be the residence hall director. And I was like, ooh, well, I don't know if I want to do that, but I knew I wanted to be in college. And so long story short, I ended up interviewing for that job. And at the time, the baseball program had really started to fall off, and Bill was, doing so many things, and the support at that time at Upper Iowa wasn't great. And he, it was best that Bill just do basketball and keep it rolling and get somebody to get baseball going. So not a lot of people applied for the job. I got the job at 23 years old. I turned 24 a month after they hired me. I was the youngest head college coach in the country. And it wasn't because I was special or anything. It was because nobody else wanted the job, and I had been there 4 years, and they trusted me. They knew me. I was a married student, had a child, worked hard when I was there. So because I had built trust and respect with the people in the residence hall primarily, there's a guy named Brawley Caballero and Louise Scott, good relationships with them, and so Cabby was the dean, and they hired me.
Was it scary?
Yeah, it was scary. It was scary because everybody in my circle, Gary, said, "Don't take that job. You will never ever get another job." And I had people yell at me, "You're an idiot. Don't take that job."
Why?
Because they didn't think you could win. Upper Iowa was struggling. They had a president for a long time that was an anti-sports guy and wanted to turn it into a business school. So he had milked the supports, away from the coaches and the athletic department. Well, a new president had been hired recently. I liked his message, and in my heart, I believed that we could win there in baseball. I did. At that young age, I really believed if we did things the way I thought things needed to be done, we could win there. And a question I asked Mike McCready before I decided to take the job was, Mike, if we do good, if we improve, will you help me? Will you help me do some stuff with the field? He said, well, what are you talking? And I told him what I thought we needed to do because the field was in bad shape. And he said, yeah, no problem. If you get better, I'll help you for sure. And trusted him, took the job, and moved into the dorm. And I was coaching guys that I had played with, so I knew that I had to separate myself from the players as much as possible because of the fact I was the same age they were. I'd played with some of them. And I feel like that was the biggest challenge. And had I not handled that challenge well, it wouldn't have worked. And the guys bought in. They jumped on board with me, took over a team that had only won 4 games the year before. And so, challenged those guys to, we take a sod cutter and each one of us would take a round around the outfield and we put a warning track in and we fixed the infield. We did whatever we could to try to start building some class in the program, and got some friends in town to help me with the field, and we knew we weren't going to be great, right? So that's why I told those guys, we're going to be the group that sets the tone for the culture of what, Upper Iowa baseball is going to be. And when we win that first championship, it's going to be because of you guys, and because you guys grinded it out when we didn't have a lot of talent, and and we got good buy-in, and we had I think we were 7-33 that year, and as fate would have it, my two best players got hurt on the spring trip, and we were really shorthanded that year. But that group really did a nice job of setting the tone for what was coming in the future. Had a recruiting class the next year. Lost a lot of close games. I remember we were like 10-23, but lots of improvement, close losses. And then in year 3, we had a winning season. And it was the first winning season in any sport at Upper Iowa in 16 years. And it got better the next year. And then in 1993, we won the first championship and went to a regional, beat the team that was the highest ranked team in the regional. And it rolled from there. And then highlight 1996, we won the regional championship and went to the Division III College World Series and beat Marietta, which was the #1 ranked team in the country, and had an extra inning loss to the national champions. But that's how far we were able to take that program. And the cool thing for me, being a multi-sport guy, was I felt like we just needed something. And I remember Coach McCready saying to me, we just need something to cheer for. I don't care what it is, baseball, wrestling, women's basketball. We got to get somebody over the hump. And Mike was getting the wrestling program going. We had some good guys in the football and basketball program. But when we had that first championship, all of a sudden, boom, we're winning in football, we're winning in basketball. And it was a really special time to be at Upper Iowa because we were winning championships in multiple sports at a school that hadn't won in a long, long time. And it was just a really special time, and great coaches, and times I'll cherish forever. And then when the UNI job opened, right, 1999, Dave Schrag was a friend of mine. He was the coach. And Dave got the job at Northern Illinois. And the UNI job, they had went into the Missouri Valley, I think, in 1992. And the Missouri Valley at that time was one of the best baseball conferences in the country, every bit as good as a lot of the Power Fives. Wichita State was going to the World Series, Creighton, all the Missouri State. I mean, really good baseball conference. And UNI had never supported baseball, and so it was a struggle for Dave. He built it up in a good spot, but he left because of lack of support. So when I called Dave, I said, "Hey, what do you think? Should I try to get the job, or would you throw my name to the guys?" He goes, "Rick, I'd love for you to coach my kids, but you don't want this job. It's a terrible job, horrible job." And so I said, okay, and I didn't do anything with it. And I was content. I mean, I wanted to move up, but I knew it's hard, Division III guy. Sometimes you get pigeonholed. That's where you stay. And so about a month later, Rick Hartzell was hired as the athletic director at UNI. And Gary Rima, who was the voice of the Panthers for all those years, Gary was my summer league coach. I played for the Strawberry Point Cubs, and Gary Rima ran the team. And Gary called me and said, "Hey, you got to apply for this job." Gary's son, Todd, had played there and was just finishing up now that Hartzell's coming. So I knew Hartzell had worked for Coach Banks here at Iowa when he did his grad work. He was with Coach Banks for 2 years. So I got involved with the job, and it was a similar situation, Gary, as the Upper Iowa job. Rick offered me the job, and I was like, whoa, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears coaching 2 sports at Upper Iowa and building that program and being an alumni, and just the pride I had. It was such a good thing. I was scared they might drop the program. That was my biggest fear. And there was also a little bit more fear in my gut because I really didn't know what I was up against. I knew they weren't supported. They didn't have full scholarships like the rest of the teams in the league. Budget was low. You had to fundraise all the budget. But I knew I was going to get probably one shot to coach Division I. And I sat in the Unidome parking lot for an hour, and I literally beat my head on the steering wheel because I had to go in and tell Rick whether I was going to take the job or not. I went in, and I said to Rick, I said, listen, I'd be an idiot if you dropped the program in a year. And there I am sitting in the cold after I put 12 years of my life into the Upper Iowa program. I said, what do you have to say about that? He said, he put his hand out and he shook my hand and he said, I won't drop baseball. If they force me to do it, we'll both be gone. I said, okay. And we shook hands. I took the job, but everybody was saying, don't take that job. You'll never win there. Tough job, blah, blah, blah. And it was a really, really hard job. Yeah, but we had some success because we'll talk more about this later, but we run a culture-based program, and we recruit the right kids that are humble and overachieve, and at least you give yourself a chance. If everything falls in place, everything kind of has to go perfect when you're playing in a situation where most teams have more raw talent than you, but you can beat those guys if they don't show up, and that's kind of what we did at UNI. It was rough. I mean, the kids had to park cars at every event at the Unidome. We had an off-campus field at Riverfront Stadium. You had to go 6 miles, 7 miles to the ballpark each day, and you had to take care of the field yourself.
Tell me more about humble. I like that.
Well,
you don't hear that very often in athletics.
Yeah, I guess that's my big statement when we recruit kids. We look for kids who are unselfish, kids who are going to be happier for your success than their own, kids who don't have a hidden agenda, kids that are in it for the program to win championships, however that is, however it happens, and whatever their role is. And I've never met a kid that overachieved that wasn't humble. Now, I've had great players that weren't humble, but they never overachieved above their ability. But the ones that you see that really overachieve are truly humble, unselfish, caring players and people. And so for my entire career, those are the type of guys that we're searching out. And if there's a red flag with selfishness,
entitlement.
Entitlement.
Yeah, I was something in high school.
Yeah, for sure. Accountability, lack of, finger pointing. You can't win championships at the schools I've been at with those guys. Right. We're just never going to have enough talent. And so there's been a lot of times in my career when they'll say, why in the heck didn't you get that guy? Yeah. He was a good player, but he's not my kind of player. Yeah. And that's how we do it, and how we've always tried to do it. We're getting into recruiting, but the way the recruiting rules have changed so much in the last 5 to 10 years, they make it a lot more difficult to build that relationship with the family and the player before you have to make a decision. So we still do a great job with it, and we'll always try to, but it's not easy when you can't, spend the time with the kid before they have to make the decision. And then it's just a matter of then you have to trust people. If you're the baseball coach, I have to call maybe I call the football coach and say, hey, tell me the truth. What's he like? So that you're getting different opinions. Or you call the English teacher, or you call somebody else and say, hey, tell me about this guy in your opinion, and just try to get some background that way. But because a lot of times you have to make decisions so quickly, and you haven't had time to build up that relationship. You can get fooled pretty easily in a short time. But that's what we try to do, Gary. Is we try to have a team full of those guys, and it works. I mean, when you get a bunch of guys that really don't care about anything other than helping the team, that's pretty special. And that would be I guess I would tell you that is why we were able to turn the Iowa program around so quickly, was that kind of culture and that kind of philosophy, and the process of getting better each day at everything you do, not just baseball, and not make it lip service, and not look the other way when someone is doing something they're not supposed to do just because they're a good player. When you do those things right consistently, kids want to be in that environment, and that's where we are. I mean, like this year hasn't gone the way we would like. Last year we had to deal with losing Keaton and those guys with the gambling thing. Our guys survived. We almost won the Big Ten tournament, and we beat North Carolina twice in a regional when we lost our best player and one of the best hitters in the country and several other guys. We had one catcher, but that's because of our culture, and that's because of the type of kids we have in the program. And even this year, things haven't gone great, and we've had injuries, and this hasn't worked, but the group is still tight. I mean, they're going to fight till the end. It may not go the way we want it from a results standpoint, but internally we're strong.
Take a look. Speaking of humble, look at Caitlin Clark with amazing things she did on and off the court. And then when she talks, when she signs autographs with kids, with her Nike contract, a lot of that has to do with her humility, I think.
No question about it.
And a team player. She's passing the ball. She has assists. She doesn't just shoot.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk for an hour on how incredible Caitlin Clark is, and everything that you said is dead on. I mean, her numbers, her assist numbers are incredible. Yeah. And when she gets her feet under her in the WNBA, I can't wait to watch the passes she's going to be able to make, to the players she's going to be passing to there. But you're not. I mean, there has to be some selfishness in a good way, at the right times. But when you're that great, but she's not that great unless she is totally concerned with winning. Right. She's concerned with winning, and the reason, a lot of people outside the program, you hear them say, "Well, she shoots this, she shoots all the time." She does what she has to do to win the game. Period. Yeah. And there's nights when she didn't, and when she wasn't feeling it, some nights she was making more passes. She's always trying to figure out a way to win the game. And if it means she's got to score 50, she's going to score 50. Yeah. But if she needs to score 25, she's going to score 25. And that's the whole point to your comment on her being humble. She wants to win. Right. And I mean, she wants to win, and she wants to win championships. And it's about the team, and you can see, how much she cares after the game and the time she spends. And I can't even imagine what this past year was like for her, being pulled in 97 different directions and still having to lift and still having to do her workouts and still having to be Caitlin Clark on the court. Right. I can't even tell you how amazing what she did this year with all of the distractions she had. Really is, and what an awesome role model, example, whatever you want to say. Not just for young girls or whoever, but for our own guys right here in our program. I can't tell you how many times we've talked with our team about when we watch the women's basketball team and how tough they are and how gritty they are and how Caitlin does this and that and how unselfish she is. All of those things, we've just had this wonderful role model for excellence right here on our own campus.
Right. I'm always fascinated by Navy SEALs, and I read a little bit about it. And I've met a couple, and when you study them, they weed them out because if they're not for the team, right? If they find guys that are going to give up their lives for their buddy or for their teammate, and it sounds like that's what you build at Iowa. Those guys will give up sacrifice themselves for their team,
and that's what we try to do. I mean, that's. It's no different in business and things you do, but you're building a team. And the thing is, why you don't see it as much as maybe you should, it's hard work. Because just because you get it to where you want it, it can be gone in 2 weeks if you don't pay attention to it. It might take 10 years to build, but it can be gone in 2 weeks with lack of accountability by the leadership, by letting things slip, by not paying attention to the details that really matter or whatever it might be. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, you have to stay on top of it, and it's not perfect. And every year, maybe you have a bunch of guys that are coming back. It's still a new team every year, and that team has to buy in, and that team has to come up with their own internal leadership. And that's the hardest part. I think as a head coach is getting a program to a point where the leadership in the locker room, where they can hold each other accountable. Because we live in a society now that if I say, hey, Gary, you need to get your butt moving, a lot of kids want to fight you.
Yeah.
You have to have guys that can hold people accountable. And we've been fortunate that that's what we have built, and that's where we're at. But I never, ever, ever take that for granted, because it can go away very quickly. And every year you have a new core group, of leaders, and the best teams are led in the locker room by your own players. And it's not perfect. Let me tell you, it's always a work in progress, and it's always changing. But you have to have that if you're going to have a team that has the ability to overachieve. And I guess that's the underlying story to this, is when you are at places like I've been, you either figure out how to do that or you get killed, because you're going to tee it up against teams that have more talent than you a lot. And how are you going to survive, and how are you going to beat those guys? And all of my stops have kind of been at those places, and I always felt that our system of player development on and off the field, our system of doing the right thing and culture and being about the team and all the things we talked about, if we could ever get to a place where you had a level playing field, or a loaded gun, it would work better than the recruiting guys, because that's the other philosophy. They just recruit the guys that have the advantages, money. They just recruit them, over-recruit them, and you're either a dude, or if you're not a dude, we cut you. And because player development's really hard, bringing in dudes when you have more money isn't that hard. And you roll them out there, and a lot of times it works because they just have the most talent. But the only way to beat those guys is to have better culture, better player development, players improving your program. And like an Iowa kid, we take a small town Iowa kid that's a 3-sport kid. I mean, you have to get him to be a Division I baseball player by his junior year, and we've done a great job on the development side and kind of on the cutting edge of the development side. And I don't know how much you guys know about it, but we've that's kind of our niche. And we built a manager program that we've put 12 managers in professional baseball in the last 3 years. I've got 2 former pitching coaches that are in the big leagues right now. Desi Drushel's in the dugout with the Yankees, and Robin Lund's in the dugout with the Tigers, and they're actually playing each other tomorrow. And we've got so many. I just lost a coach this year to the Red Sox. I've lost so many coaches to professional baseball because we take player development very, very seriously, and I think we're the best in the country at it.
Do you think when you recruit a kid, do you want to see him be in multiple sports like football, basketball, track, whatever? As opposed to just focus on baseball?
I like that. It's funny. I have kids, like a pitcher, 6'6" pitcher, and he's junior year, or even his senior year. He'll send me a text and say, "Hey, coach, you'll be happy to hear I'm quitting basketball and just going to focus on baseball." And I'll call him and say, "No, you're not. You're going to go play basketball." Yeah. Anything that you can do in the winter, you can do outside of basketball.
Right.
You need to get out there and take an elbow and guard somebody and build some toughness and move around and become a better athlete. That's what I believe. Right. And I've actually had coaches in Iowa, like kids that I were barely recruiting or maybe stopped recruiting, say, "Hey, will you do me a favor? Would you call this kid and tell him he needs to play basketball or play football?" And I'll do it. I mean, I think it's important now. The football one's a little touchy. Especially if they're a high profile pitcher.
Right.
It's a little scary because just one blow to the shoulder, and unfortunately in baseball, they've mastered the elbow, but you hurt your shoulder, it's going to be different. I'm not going to say it's be over, but it's definitely different. And I've not seen many come back and at least throw as well as they did before the surgery. So I understand that point with the football guys, but I've never told a kid not to play football. I mean, never. And then I love wrestlers that are baseball players.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Toughness.
love them. Yeah, their toughness
Discipline.
and their mental toughness.
Right.
And even though it's an individual sport, I've never had a wrestler that wasn't the best team player,
Right.
the best teammate. So
Well, they're all on teams, basketball, football, whatever you're out.
Yeah.
It's a team sport,
Right.
So you got to learn to work on different skill sets, and I think it creates a toughness, a mental toughness
I agree.
that you could take with you in baseball.
No question, because
If you were talking to a young person, to a young man or a young, let's say junior high school age, and they were saying, Rick, I don't know if I want to go out for sports, or I don't know if I want to be an athlete, or how would you encourage them, or what would you tell them athletics involves and why it's good for them?
well, I would first of all say, why don't you try it? And then whatever the excuse would be, I don't like it, or I'm not good at it. I would talk about the value of being on a team, and my daughter, actually, my youngest daughter, is a great example of this, because I wasn't sure she was ever going to play. And, I had two older daughters that played college athletics, really good basketball players, softball players. But my youngest, Vivian, up until about 7, had no desire, didn't want to play catch, didn't want to hit, just was into different stuff. And I just told her, here's the deal. You need to be good at something. And you need to find something you love and try to be really good at it. And that's kind of the message, even if it's not sports. I don't care if it's band, dance, gymnastics. I don't care. Whatever it is, you're going to do something, and you're going to find something you like. Well, when we were here at Iowa, when we moved up from Indiana, she said she wanted to play rec softball. So I was like, awesome. But she was way behind because she had never wanted to play catch or hit off the tee or do any of that stuff. And I just talked to her about, hey, listen, just be a great teammate, pick other girls up when they, are struggling. That's what being a part of a team teaches you, that, to your point, that camaraderie, and that there's a bigger goal, there's a bigger, bigger meaning, a bigger purpose to what you're doing. And that's what I would talk about with the kid that didn't want to play. Give it a try, see if you have fun. And that's ultimately what got my youngest daughter, was the social side. Being around other kids, making friends. She really is social, enjoys that. And all of a sudden, each year, her desire to actually do better at the sport has really, really improved. And I'm pumped. I mean, she's now playing softball. She wrestles. And honestly,
Really?
Wrestling, we were shooting basketball, trying to get her, push her basketball. I mean, I'm a basketball person. My wife played basketball. And she came home, 7th grade, she came home and said, hey, after basketball's over, I'm going to wrestle. And my wife said, there ain't no goddamn way you're going to wrestle, because, I mean, we're running you everywhere. We've spent this money on basketball stuff. And I said, no, wait. I said, let her wrestle.
Yeah. Because
she's either going to like it. I mean, she's either going to get her butt kicked and not like it, or she's going to like it. And I said, the thing about wrestling is it builds, as we know, mental toughness, discipline. And we didn't have to get her up in the morning. We had to get up 5:30 to go to wrestling, and didn't have to push her. So she really, really enjoyed it. And I was like, holy cow. I mean, basketball, I'd have to push her. Come on, let's do this. So she's not playing basketball anymore. She wrestles and she plays softball. And, I would just encourage them to try it and talk about the values of being on a team, and try to see if the social side, because, I mean, they all travel places now. And so my daughter loved going to the hotel and swimming with the kids or whatever in between the games. But because of that, then she finally started to like the actual game itself a lot more.
I think education obviously is important. You have to have an education. But I think some of your best education's on the gridiron or on the baseball field.
Without question.
That you're going to carry it. So it's like business that I'm in. It's a lot of the successful business folks are athletes.
Yep.
I mean, basically, they all are. They had something where they had the gift of themselves, and they had to have a team, and they had to have a hard work, discipline, get up early, and I think that translates into business too.
No question, Gary. And to your point, I get so many businesses that send me emails or want to meet with me to interview our seniors or they want our guys because not only is it athletes, but baseball players, it's an everyday game. We're in a hotel. People don't realize, I mean, it's rough. I mean, we're in a hotel we were in a hotel 22 of the first 28 days, and they still have to go to school and they still have to do their schoolwork. Right. And like just this week alone, I mean, we were at Nebraska on Thursday. We got home Sunday at 1 a.m. We were at the field on Sunday at 8:50 a.m. Sat through 7 hours of rain delays. We walked off the field at 8:30 that night. After playing 2 straight days, and then played last night. We played the night before, and then today we have a practice, and we're going to play 3 days in a row with Northwestern. A lot of guys know that if you can hire a baseball player, anything you throw at him is going to be pretty easy compared to what he's used to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The amount of self-discipline, the amount of accountability to get up in the morning and get your work done, and I mean, it's pretty high with a baseball player. Being a northern school where we have to travel so much, it's even harder.
Well, let's get to Iowa, but you're UNI. How'd that end up?
Well, it didn't end up well. I mean, it was a great experience. The first year was a great learning experience to kind of see what we had to do to win, because I'd never played Division I. I'd never coached against Division I. I mean, randomly at Upper Iowa, we would play Iowa or Iowa State or Eastern Illinois or somebody randomly. But going through the gauntlet of the Missouri Valley, it was funny. The first Missouri Valley game was against Illinois State, and they were picked like 5th in the league, middle of the pack. And we faced 3 guys that pitched in the big leagues. Wow. Kotz, Eckenstaller, and Furistic. And all left-handed. And I remember looking at my assistant going, if it gets tougher than this, I don't know if we're going to win a game. I mean, and we ended up beating them once and, find a way to win some games. But then in year 2, I didn't get the job till almost school starting. So no recruiting in the first year, just whatever we had, we played with. Then the next year had a recruiting class, and I got some great kids, some Eastern Iowa kids, out of Kirkwood Junior College, Marty Sutherland, Jason Simon, Seth Patterson at Indian Hills. I mean, we got some really good guys that were kind of grinders, the guys we're talking about, great team guys that want to win, players, and Cascade guys, Dyersville guys. Marty Sutherland's on my staff to this day. Marty was our second baseman my second year, but we won the Missouri Valley Championship. We beat Wichita State first round of the Missouri Valley tournament in front of a sold out crowd. I don't know if you've ever seen that stadium. It's an incredible stadium, one of the best in college baseball. And we rallied for like 3 runs in the 9th inning, and then Nick Ungs, who's my operations director now, Nick complete game shutout. Went out 1-2-3 in the 9th, and we beat Wichita, and then we end up winning the tournament. Went to a regional, the only regional that UNI baseball ever went to as a Division I program. We played the last game in Nebraska's old stadium, Buck Belzer Stadium, before they moved into the one we're playing in now, Haymarket Park. But we were in the Nebraska regional, beat BYU. I mean, it was just awesome, just a really, really awesome run, and doing something that people thought was totally impossible at UNI. And then there's a sidelight to that. I interviewed for the Iowa job the next year, and it was a crazy process. And long story short, I didn't get the job, and it didn't go as well as I would have liked from a professionalism standpoint with the people involved here. And it left a pretty bitter taste, how it all went down. But whatever, you move on, right? That's all you can do. I mean, I moved on, and it really hurt us. We lost a lot of players that summer because they thought I was leaving, and it really hurt the program for a couple years after the good year, and we had it rolling. So long story short, we get to 10 years down the road, and they dropped the program, after they said they wouldn't. And, Hartzell called me in January, the year before they dropped it, so it would have been January 2009 or 2008, and said, Rick, I just resigned. They pushed me out. They've been trying to get me to drop baseball. I told you, I gave you my word I wouldn't, so I'm out. So cover your butt. they're going to drop it next year. Well, then they just kept saying publicly, we're not dropping anything. But well, they ended up dropping it. That was a tough deal. One of the hardest things I've ever been through because you felt lied to. They did it. They called me in the hotel. We were playing Arkansas Little Rock, first game of the season, 10 in the morning in the hotel by phone. 3 or 4 hours before the first game was how, hey, all that stuff about not dropping it. Yeah, we're dropping it. And did it by phone and whatever. It was bad deal. A lot of, and then trying to find places for all your players and all of that, and then selling your house and not having a job. And so the first time in my life, I'm out on the curb, and that era, very few baseball coaches would turn over. Like today, I mean, it might be 30 every year. Yeah. Back then, baseball coaches didn't get fired. If you did a good job and ran a good program and your kids did good in school, I mean, they weren't firing the baseball coach. And so there were only 5 jobs opened up that year, and I ended up. Ed Service is a friend of mine at Creighton. Ed had called me and said, "Hey, I've got a volunteer spot, Rick. In case you don't get anything, you come over and be our hitting coach or whatever. Help me out to keep you in the game." And I'm like, "Oh, great!" And then my wife ended up transferring her job over to Omaha, which worked out. But Ed said, "Let's just wait till July in case something happens, so we don't have to, move over." And I said, "Perfect." And well, I'd sold my house, so I was talking to my realtor and seeing if there were people in town that had houses they couldn't sell and giving them some money and sleeping on a mattress, and it was a nightmare. And my wife was pregnant, and so I'm in a U-Haul July 7th heading to Omaha, and the phone rings, and it's Lindsey Meggs, and Lindsey was the coach at Indiana State, California guy, had won national championships at Chico State. I knew he wanted to get back to the West Coast, and I told my wife there's only one job that might open that I think I'd have a shot at, and that might be Indiana State, because I knew Lindsey had a decent year at Indiana State, and he wanted out. He ended up getting the Washington job. And he said, "Hey, Rick, I just got the Washington job. Oh, congrats." And he's like, "Would you want to come out and be my assistant?" And I'm like, "Yeah, for sure, but I'd rather be the head coach at Indiana State. Would you help get me going?" And long story short, Ron Prettyman was the AD. Ron was a California guy. This is probably going to get too long, but when I was at Upper Iowa, I found out that I couldn't get the Iowa kids. They'd been so bad for so long. Like, the coaches wouldn't even let me talk to their guys. It was like, whoa. So I had to find a niche. So I rented a car in San Diego, and I hit every JUCO all the way up north of San Francisco. And I'd do that for 2 weeks every year, and I'd hit 3 or 4 JUCOs a year. And I would say, "Hey, I don't want your best players. I just want your baseball rats, your teammates, your guys you love, but have a hard time finding them a place." And they're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, back then nobody was doing that. And they're like, "Okay." And so boom, I get 1 or 2, 3 or 4. So I turned that program around with California kids, because I couldn't get Iowa kids to even take a look at me. And so in the time I was in California, I met guys who moved up as well. Like Dave Serrano was a JUCO coach, and Dave Serrano ended up being the head coach at Tennessee, and he was a head coach at Cal State Fullerton. And George Horton, who's big name in our sport, was the coach at Fullerton, won national championship. He was the coach at Oregon, and I was friends with those guys, and they had sent me players. Well, Ron called those guys and said, "Hey, I want another California coach at Indiana State. Do you have a name for me?" And they said, well, without me asking, they said, "No, but Rick Heller is out there from you getting dropped at UNI. We've known Rick forever. You should look at hiring Rick." Because of my relationships that I built in California, got me in the door without me even knowing it with Ron. And then I ended up going through the interview process. It was a stringent interview process. Ron flew out there. They flew me there. I mean, like 3 or 4 interviews. And right before school started, I was in the Creighton baseball offices, and he called and offered me the job. And that was a huge break for me in my career. And can't thank Ron enough for doing that, because I was not the pick that the alumni wanted, and I was not the pick of a lot of people at Indiana State. And for him to pick me over the guys he did, I didn't think it was possible, to be honest with you. I told my wife, there's no way he's going to hire me when, Mitch Hannes was also interviewing, and Mitch kind of finished second to Lindsey. Mitch was former pro player, was on their World Series team. Great coach, great person. Had been at Indiana State as an assistant, and he ended up hiring me over Mitch. And then, luckily, Mitch is a wonderful human, and people were just attacking me in the paper. And Mitch and I had been friends in the sport for a long time. And Mitch wrote an article and put it in the paper about thanks for the support, but said nice things about me, and let's get behind Rick. We're all Sycamores, and we need to be behind Rick. And his son ended up playing for me. And then when I left, Mitch got the job. So kind of a crazy story, but I was there for 4 years, and it was 4 fantastic years. We had a lot of success. Still have two players that are in the big leagues that we coached off those teams, and we won to that point, the only outright big Missouri Valley championship ever at Indiana State. Now, Mitch has now won it since then, but to that point we hadn't, and went to a regional, won 40-plus games, and went to the Oregon regional. And then when the job came open at Iowa, went through the process again, and Gary Barty ended up hiring me.
Good. So now you're at Iowa.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Iowa a little bit. So
Okay.
I know last year you had, 44 wins and 30 guys in the pros, or I don't know, some of the statistics. But so tell us about Iowa, then maybe we can, as we get into Iowa, talk about fundraising and the new stadium and the facilities. And
well, where do you want to go with Iowa? Because when I got the job, again, it was pretty late. It was end of July.
And that was for Dwayne Banks, who retired, right?
No. It was Jack Dahm.
Jack Dahm, okay.
And it was Dwayne, Scott Broghammer, and then Jack.
Okay.
And then me. And the team had only hit 2 home runs the year before as a team, and it was not a great situation. It looked like outwardly. The best recruits all bailed. Only one of the recruits ended up showing up, and thank goodness he did, because his name's Nick Allgaier, and Nick ended up pitching in the big leagues for the Blue Jays, and Nick's dad played football for Hayden, and St. Louis kid, multi-sport kid, but just a really, really tough kid, and so glad that Nick ended up coming. And then we were able to bring in a guy named Tyler Payton. Tyler was at Iowa Central Junior College, and his dad, Byron, coached at Pekin Packwood. Byron's a great baseball guy. He was at Dallas Center Grimes when he moved up to Dallas Center Grimes, but had a small relationship with Byron, and Tyler had turned down Nebraska and some other people after his freshman year to go back to Iowa Central, and so felt comfortable calling their coaches saying, we're going to ask Tyler because we know he's already entertained other schools. And we ended up getting Tyler, long story short. So Tyler came in and really was a key piece to us having a decent year the first year.
So you had to change the culture quite a bit?
That's all we did. I mean, I walked in the room, everybody was saying, you need to cut this guy, this guy's a pain in the butt, this guy's that. And I don't believe in that. At the stops I've made, I did the same thing at Upper Iowa, did it at UNI, did it at Indiana State. I just walked in the first meeting and I said, listen, here's the deal. I don't care what anybody said about any of you. We're going to love and care for you like we recruited you. We're not here to get rid of anybody. We're here to make an offer, though, that you buy into a new way of doing things, a culture of getting better every day at everything we do. We're not hanging out at the bars anymore and having our Iowa sweatshirt on to look cool. We're going to do good in school. We're going to do good in the community. We're going to do good in the dorms and apartments. We're going to lift weights hard. It's going to be a total program, and we're going to bust our butts with you. We're going to go out every single day and work as hard as we can to be the best baseball players we can be. And I'm asking for a chance to see if you guys like it. And at the end of the day, if you don't, then we can part ways down the road. And I said, but I think if you give us a chance, you guys are going to really enjoy it. And we got going, and by early November, I was like, we're not too bad. We had a good group. We didn't have hardly any seniors, but we had I think we had 16 or 17 juniors on that team. So a core group of juniors, and then not many sophomores and only, a couple freshmen. And so that junior group was key, and that they were talented. But I felt like they were underdeveloped, and they loved it. They were thirsty for it. They wanted it. And by Christmas, I said to Marty Seller and my assistant, I'm like, we got a chance to be okay this year. Those guys have really improved. And we started off. We had a good start, won some games, and that was big because the buy-in increased. They seen the value. It's like, whoa, they're right. It does work. We're winning, because we don't talk about winning in our program. We just talk about winning the day. We talk about controlling the controllables. We talk about doing the things that we can control. And that's all you can control. I mean, in baseball, you do what you try to play the game. You don't worry about the opponent. You take care of the things you can control, and at the end of the day, you look at the scoreboard. If you did a good job of that, you usually win. But in baseball, as you know, I mean, it can go the other way too. You can play great and lose, and you got one guy in the mound that collapses and everybody else plays great. I mean, there's so many things that can happen. You can't live and die on results in baseball. If you do, you're going to have ebbs and flows, and it's a roller coaster. So we just try to focus on the controllables. And but when you win early with a new team that hasn't been winning, that's big. And so we were fortunate that happened. And then we played Nebraska, first Big Ten weekend, and we ended up having a walk-off hit, won the series. Guys were going crazy. Yeah, we ended up winning 30 games. We won a game in the conference tournament. And I could tell on the bus ride home from Omaha, we lost 2 close games after we won a game. And they hadn't been in the tournament in a while, hadn't won a game in a long time. The bus ride home was silent because all of them felt the same way I did. We could have maybe won that tournament. Right. And all those juniors I knew were motivated to come back and be better. And man, we went out and rolled, and we went to a regional in year 2. We won 40 games, and we beat Oregon twice in the regional. Almost went to the super regionals with the same guys. And oh man, it was just awesome, and it was such a great feeling to see those kids that people had basically kicked to the curb and thought I should cut, and all of them, excelling, and lots of them getting opportunities to play pro baseball now, and because of the development. And it's just basically we've rolled, from there. Some years are more successful from a result standpoint or win-loss, but the thing I can tell you is that the culture, the leadership, the accountability, all the stuff we talked about has improved every year. And that's the goal with every one of our teams, is to leave the program in a better place when you leave the jersey in a better place when you leave. And we're playing for so many other people. We play for all the guys who've worn it and all the guys who are going to wear it. And we talk about it, and, your alumni is so far reaching. If anyone's listening, I just want them to know that in our program, it's important, and you probably don't even think about it anymore if you played in the 60s or the 70s, but we're playing for all of those guys. And it's important in our program, and there's a lot of pride. And so that's what we've tried to do. And we've had different levels of success. We've had setbacks that still make me angry. Our best team was, I think our best team was the COVID year. We were off to a 15-5 start. We had beaten North Carolina, we'd beaten Duke, we'd beaten Arizona, and a couple more. And I didn't even think we were playing good yet. And then that group got screwed out of their season. And then the next year's team was really good. And then because of the stupid protocol for COVID, they were saying kids had COVID the second time when it was just the test was ratcheted up too high, and they knew it. Everyone knew it, and they held us out. They held a bunch of our players out right before the Big Ten season started, and then the Big Ten would only let us play Big Ten games. So we played 45 conference games that year, crazy. But we got off to a rough start because they were holding our players out. And that team didn't make a regional because of that. And it should have been. And it was a team capable of maybe getting to Omaha. And so they got ripped off because of that. And, but we survived. And then the next year, boom, was good. I felt like we got ripped off again. We had a great year. But they were punishing the Big Ten because they would play only Big Ten games when everybody else wasn't. And we got caught in a political bunch of BS. And so us and Rutgers got held out of the tournament for whatever reason. Doesn't make sense. But then finally last year, we just did enough last year. They couldn't keep us out. And we ended up, making it to the last game of the regional with all the crap we had to go through with the gambling stuff. So anyway, it's been nothing is easy.
Adversity, a lot of adversity.
Yeah, and no one has ever been really successful, right? Unless they've fought through it.
Right.
And it never changes. I mean, this is year 37 for me.
Wow.
And it doesn't stop. I mean, it's a battle, it's a war every year in some form or fashion. And we probably don't even have enough time to get there, but the stuff we're going through right now.
How's NIL?
Well, that's what I'm saying with NIL and transfer portal. And I mean, in the last 2 years, the game has like done a 180, and then it's an unfair game. I mean, it's an unfair situation, and baseball's always been an unfair situation because football and basketball are full ride sports.
Right.
So Coach Ferentz has the same amount of scholarships as Alabama, Tennessee, Texas A&M. Well, in baseball, you have 11.7 to split up amongst 32 guys, and you can have 8 walk-ons. Okay, so think about that. So the teams that you see on TV in the World Series every year, they have advantages with what they call supplemental aid, hardship grants, academic grants. They call it the lottery grant in some of the states. They take state money and they give it to the students. So anything you can get over your 11.7 with supplemental aid gives you a huge advantage in baseball because even 1 or 2 scholarships is important. So the gap was already really big when NIL hit. But for us, the gap has really, really widened because most of the schools in the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC are members of the collective, and they are all now full ride sports with the collective money. And we're losing kids now that are getting full rides plus 50,000, full rides plus 60,000. The better players are getting 100 to 500 and even more at some of the schools for the elite players, and they're just buying all the players. And it's a really, really difficult world we live in right now.
It's turned it into semi-pro.
Well, basically, well, listen to this, Gary. The timing was pretty crazy because after COVID, there were 40 rounds of the draft. They cut the draft to 20 rounds now, and then they cut half the minor league teams. You remember when the big talk was the minor league players don't get paid, right? We want to pay that. We need to pay them more, and there's lawsuits, all this. I said, be careful what you wish for. They'll pay them more, but then they're going to cut half the players. Yeah. It's going to be the same money. They're just going to double up the guys who make it. So there's going to be less opportunities, and that's exactly what's happened. So now when you go play those schools that have over $1 million to give to their baseball team every year in collective money, which is a lot of teams, not a lot, it's a lot of money, but it's a lot of teams that have that. There's a lot more players that would have been going pro out there to play college baseball. So they're paying and hoarding all the players at those schools that have huge collective money. And, I'm sitting here, what do? Well, you have to fight. And, we're fighting. We're doing our best to try to get involved in the NIL process. We've got guys helping us. John Gruca volunteered from Cedar Rapids, and John has been out beating the bushes and forming a baseball collective. And then we're now a part of the Swarm Collective with Brad and the guys. And everybody's, all hands on deck. But let's face it, it's luck of the draw where your location is with NIL. You know, think about it. We don't have Minneapolis. We don't have Columbus. We don't have New York City. We don't have 6 oil billionaires in our alumni base. We don't have 6 cotton billionaires in our alumni base. And if you happen to be one of those schools that have those guys, it's a huge advantage. And it's just luck of the draw. It's not hard work or you go out and do it. It's just how it is.
Yeah. So what's the future look like? How do you see it? I mean,
well, that's a good question.
Obviously, you built a culture. You have great teams. You have great staff. You have. It's incredible what you've done. And then now where do you go?
Well, you just keep doing it. You keep fighting. And I guess my hope is that there will be some semblance of normalcy comes back if we can withstand these first few years. I don't think it's going away, but I think what you're going to see, and maybe in the next year, is some form of revenue sharing is going to happen, where there's so many lawsuits going on right now. It's nobody really knows what direction it's going to go. It's going to happen. I'm telling you, there will be some form of revenue sharing where a certain amount of money has to go to the players. I think even though I don't agree with it, even though it's going to put a lot of programs, colleges in rough spots, that will kind of level the playing field possibly, you know, if they include all the sports. If it's only the revenue sports, then that means it's going to be a massacre for a lot of the other sports, if it turns into pro sports, right? I mean, and then where does Title IX fall into that picture? Is it still going to be there? Because now if you're saying we have to pay the players, they're now an employee, you know, which to me is just insanity. I mean, we've lost our minds. The kids have a choice. I mean, to think that we're going to back pay guys all the way to 2016. I mean, nobody twisted anybody's arm.
Right.
I mean, you could go do what you want to do. You don't have to go play. I mean,
it's amazing.
I mean, the scholarship's a lot. Don't let anybody kid you. The scholarship, if you're a full ride athlete, it's a great deal. You know, the food and all the stuff that you get. You know, if you're an equivalency sport like us, it's not such a great deal. You still got guys taking loans out to play, and it's not a level playing field in the world of college athletics with sports. But I guess my point is, I mean, how do you do that when nobody forced them to do that? They made the choice to play, and they still make the choice to play. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they could go try out somewhere else, or they go play somewhere else, go play on a club team, you know, whatever. But that's where we're headed, and I don't think anybody really knows how it shakes out. But I really feel good about where we're setting in the Big Ten with the teams coming in, and where we're at in the national landscape, kind of leading the way with the SEC. I think baseball's got a huge, huge window of opportunity now, and it all stems around another topic for another day. But this may be the window where we move the season back, and the only reason it hasn't moved back is the South knows it's an advantage for them, and RPI, everybody has to come to them. I mean, it's stupid. I mean, they wouldn't do that in any other sport. Can you imagine if they told all the South had to play in a gym in football until they played game one, and all the North got to play outside on the regular field? I mean, that's what it is. And so we have a great commissioner in Tony Petitti, baseball guy, you know, worked for MLB, was one of the main guys, if not the guy that is responsible for the MLB network, played college baseball, the perfect leader to kind of take us into this new world of college athletics. And for just think if we just moved the season back a month from a marketing standpoint, we're starting at the same time as MLB, like all the other sports. I mean, we were 19-2 last year, Gary, and nobody even knew we were playing. Because why? March. Women's basketball was still playing. And again this year, as they should. People, that's where the focus needed to be. And then we need to start playing when basketball's over. And we're not talking about playing the entire summer, but maybe playing the conference tournament the third week in June, which would give all the northern schools a chance to have plenty of warm home games, to have fans come and make some money and not lose money. And we wouldn't have to travel the first 4 or 5 weeks because of the weather. You know, that's where I hope we're heading. And if that happens, boom, it's going to be great. And then from the NIL thing, we'll survive. We'll find a way, and something's going to happen. But we're still going to get good kids, and we're still going to develop them better than everybody else. And we'll still go out and have a chance to beat those guys that don't do it that way.
Good. Tell us about finish today. Let's talk about the stadium and raising money for the stadium and what you're up to there.
Well, it's been, I guess, what you see at Banks Field right now is phase 1 and phase 2. When I got to Iowa, I knew that we needed to do something to give the program a boost in the eyes of the baseball people, because when I was hired, a lot of guys in our state, I had been a college coach in our state for a long time and member of our high school association and knew everybody. And I think not everybody, but most people were really happy I got the job, but they were saying, if Iowa doesn't do something to support them, they still don't have a chance. I knew we had to get turf because we're a northern school. They weren't able to play many home games because of grass. Big disadvantage in the north. So hit the ground running. We were able to raise enough money to get the turf on the infield the first year. That helped a ton. We were able to play at home a lot more. Give you an example. Before we got here, 15 to 18 home games. We're playing 24 to 29 home games with turf. So went out, had some really generous donors step up. And quite frankly, a lot of guys from UNI that were my boosters there. Gary Sharp, Chris Honkamp, some guys stepped up big time, along with some good Hawkeye guys too. But we got the turf, the new fence, the scoreboard. Gary Sharp bought us the scoreboard, cleaned up all the sides that you see now. And then phase 3 was going to be the stadium because it's really, really old. And a lot of people don't know this. It's been here since 71 or 72, but they hauled it. Dwayne Banks told me they hauled it from another part of campus from the early 60s or late 50s. And so the fan experience is not great. The press box is like a high school press box. So we went out and started raising money for phase 3, which was the stadium seating, stadium bowl, bathrooms, concessions, fan experience, press box. And it's been a long 8 years, to get it done. We've had setbacks that I had no control over. The north end zone the foundation was crumbling, and it wasn't a planned fundraise. So we were making big headway, and then all of us had to be a good teammate and back off to figure out what we were going to do with the north end zone. And they did, what they should have done. They tore it down and built it in a way that they're going to recoup a lot of that money, down the road, 15, 20 years down the road with the boxes. They could have chose to put a $40, $50 million Band-Aid on it, and then probably ended up doing what you see now. So anyway, that set us back for a couple years because it was all hands on deck with fundraising for that project. And then right when we got cleared to go back on the road and fundraise again for the stadium, COVID hit. And that wasn't great, obviously, for a year and a half. But then after that, we had a lot of success. A lot of guys stepped up. I mean, we had lost some momentum because, we'd been to the regionals back then. And anyway, but guys really stepped up, and we were on pace to get it done. We were supposed to start construction this summer. It was supposed to be starting in 2 weeks. We're playing in Des Moines the last weekend, and originally we were going to play in Des Moines so they could get started earlier, and we would be sure to have it done before our season next year. And we had a kick in the gut where 2 days before the board meeting in November, it was going to the board to get a clearance so that we could start this summer. 8 years of pounding it, we made it. We're going to get it done. And the lead donor had some issues, some financial issues. So long story short, it didn't go to the board, and we lost $10 million of the project. And
you're talking the Board of Regents.
Yeah, and the way it works, Gary, there's certain things you have to do for the board. So because we still had a significant amount of money, right? And my say was, we have to do something. I mean, we have to move. I mean, we have to do what we can do with what we have, and give me time to go out and get the rest. Let's do it in phases, because by doing it in phases, I think we can get it done, maybe even for a little less money. But we got to move. But the problem is, because of the Regent system, you got to get a new contractor. You got to get a new drawings. You got to get new architect to do each phase. So we're in the process of trying to get that done. But there's some things that we're going to do this summer that we could do without a lot of board approval. It still has to go to the board, but not like it would have to do for a building project. So our turf, tells you how long I've been here. The turf needs replaced. We've been waiting for 2 years because we wanted to do it with the project, it just made sense. You didn't want trucks driving on it, whatever. So we're putting the new turf in this summer. We're putting new lights in. Musco generously donated the lights from the Field of Dreams game. So we will be one of the only college programs in the country to have major league lights at our college field. And we've been waiting for a couple years to do that because we wanted to do the project all at once. So we've been patient with those two. Got to get those done this summer. There's some stuff we're going to do for the players, for the dugout. We're building a small clubhouse. It's not the primary locker room, but a clubhouse that is usable from the dugout during the game, so they can go in, have their stuff there, practice, all that stuff. And so that's what we're doing this summer to get the ball rolling. And then we're going to take the money we have left. We're going to prioritize, and then at least hopefully we can start maybe the press box or maybe the seating. And then if we have enough money, we'll do the press box and the seating. And then at least we'll know what number we have to get to finish it off and do it. So obviously out there, what's that?
Do you know what that number is?
Well, right now we're at 17 million that we have pledged. We were at 27, a little over 27, to do the whole thing and landscape and do everything right. So in the big picture, it was about we're lacking about 10 million. But like I said, we may have to replan it. We may have to minimize something, do something here, or maybe there's something we can do creative to be able to save some money. But it gives me some time too to go out and raise more money to try to fill in the gap. But I just want the people to know it's going to happen. I mean, and then there's going to be more for the fan experience, whatever it is. I don't know right now, but there will definitely be something starting in 2025 after the season. We'll either do whatever we have enough money to do, because it's just, that's all I hear about is bad bathrooms, bad concessions. You got to wait in line, seating. It's 1950s where your knees are up, and then we have to set a lot of the people that should be in the press box outside in the weather. And then just with the technology we have with all of the TrackMan data and the scoreboard stuff and all the stuff that we have, it isn't room for it. It has to be in climate controlled conditions for the things. And then Big Ten games, and all of our games are on Big Ten Plus, and you got all the announcers. So we just have to get it done. And, it was, it's a big deal to me. I mean, I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it right. And I wanted it to be a stadium that would allow us to be successful when I'm done. And I wanted the next coach to come in and have a fighting chance in this crazy world we're in now, and not say, Jesus, why the hell did he do this or this or this? I didn't want to hack it together and just do something to get it done. I wanted it to be really special and something that's a source of pride for baseball in our state of Iowa, because we're going to host the state tournament. We're going to do all these things for baseball, and it's bigger than us. And we don't have Iowa State, and we don't have UNI. I mean, we're it. It needs to be a showpiece for baseball in our state, and that's what my dream is, and that's what I'm passionate about, and why I know we're going to get it done, because I won't quit. I'm just going to keep going until we get what we need, and like I said, I want to leave it for the new guy, whoever that is or whenever that is. I want that guy to say, I really appreciate what they did. They gave us a good chance to be successful.
So the last $10 million needs to come from donors.
Yes.
Nothing's from the U, right?
No, there
It's all
no
private donors.
all private donors.
So if you're listening, Rick needs $10 million. So if the University of Iowa baseball program, that would be
Huge.
something to think about, because I think you're right, because that University of Iowa is the last baseball program, Big Ten or Division I, right?
Yep.
Iowa State and UNI's
Yep.
done. So, well, Rick, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you coming in. I'm real excited to hear about Iowa baseball culture and the leadership skills and creating teammates. That's a really cool thing.
Well, I
So
appreciate that. Thank you.
I think anybody listening would want to play ball for you. So anyway,
Well, thanks.
I don't have any eligibility left.
Well,
I could be a ball boy.
We're pretty beat up. We could probably use you this week.
I don't know if I could run down to first base.
We're definitely beat up. Whew.
Anyway, this has been great. So I've been chatting with Rick Heller, University of Iowa baseball program. So thanks again, Rick. I appreciate you coming in.
Thanks,
Good to see
Gary.
you.
Appreciate you asking me. Great
bet.
to be here.